going big friends.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, December 21st, and we are live here from the Neighborhood News Studio in Temperance, Michigan. A big shout out to Aaron Adler for setting up our wonderful guest this evening, Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, who George actually interviewed a few times over the past week or so. And I want to give a shout out to our tech guy, Andy Duvalla, for making sure things are running smoothly as well. Linda Lee Tarver, for those that don't know, is married to Clint, who's sitting here on my right, the dapper gentleman over here. They have two adult children, Jennifer and Terrence. Linda is a director of community affairs with the state of Michigan and holds a bachelor's degree in business management and a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. She is pursuing a doctorate of education with an emphasis in organizational leadership. Linda Lee has also been involved in local and state party politics for many years here in this wonderful state of Michigan. She serves as ethnic vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party, former chairwoman of the Ingham County Republican Party, member of the 8th Congressional District Executive Committee, and former advisory board member of the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Michigan. Linda Lee is involved with the Mid-Michigan Republican Women's Club and is the vice chair and founding member of the Alliance of Black Republicans. In 2008 and 2012, she served as the national delegate to the Republican National Convention, and in 2009, Linda was appointed by the State Senate Majority Leader to serve on the Lansing Promise Zone Authority Board. Since elected as ethnic vice chair of the Republican Party in Michigan, Linda Lee has established a coalition of diverse leaders and Republicans across the state and serves as honorary advisor to the Michigan Arab American Republican, African American Republican, and Hispanic Latino American Republican advisory councils. Linda Lee is a member of the Republican Jewish Coalition of Michigan and the Christian Coalition as well. Aside from her political involvement, Linda Lee is a businesswoman and president of Tarver Consulting. Mrs. Tarver was appointed by Governor Snyder in December 2013 to serve the people of Michigan as a civil rights commissioner, where she took the oath of office to uphold the Constitution of Michigan and the Constitution of the United States in January of 2014. She serves her local community as a board member for the Old Newsboy Association, an organizer for the annual Michigan National Day of Prayer, and is an active member and teacher at Mount Zion All Nations Bible Church. The youngest of 10 children raised in a two-parent home, Linda Lee learned the importance of education, hard work, community, service, and faith in God. Linda's daughter, Jennifer, is a double degree graduate of Michigan State University, and her son, Terrence, is a second lieutenant with the United States Army and a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C. Linda Lee asks for your vote and your prayers in re-election for ethnic vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party.
This was an old member, but my son is now a captain. I am no longer ethnic vice chair. I sit on the National Federation of Republican Women, a board of directors, and member at large. So this is a little bit dated, but it is definitely my life in a nutshell. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Tarver, for joining us this evening, and congratulations to your son on achieving the rank of captain as well.
Yeah. And
I am going to invite our first guest here as well. We're kind of doing a cycle around of a local political activists, concerned citizens, and other general members of the populace who have been either associated with Dr. Tarver or are interested in what she's doing currently. And I think the common point here is a concern for the state of our nation and our Constitution as it stands today. So I'm going to invite our first guest, Ron from LaRouche PAC, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you want to come on, and we're going to have Dr. Tarver, she's going to sign photos she has with our current president, President Trump, as well as just an open kind of forum for political discussion. So I will invite Ron on to take my seat.
Thank you.
How are you, sir?
Good. Yourself?
Good.
This is quite a fight we're in.
Yes, it is.
I would say just a couple remarks from my standpoint before we get into it is that you never defeated in a fight unless you stop fighting.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the things that I would say in terms of setting the stage for this election fight is people got a taste of, in many ways, over the last 5 years, that we're an occupied country in a sense. Certainly in this election, the president faced a Silicon Valley censorship campaign in social media, in the mainstream media, that according to people who study the effects of these type of shading of, who gets notice of, make sure you go out and vote, and who doesn't get those notices, probably influenced about 6 million votes in the United States. That alone, 6 million votes.
Absolutely.
And then you're talking about all the scandals that were suppressed by the media leading into this election. The fact that, for example, well, of course,
The Russia,
yes.
Yes.
The first,
the Ukraine, yes.
the footnote in the Russia report from the Mueller report that there was nothing to Russiagate was released on election eve. So the American people didn't know that going into it. You had the Hunter Biden story, of course, which now is under federal investigation. So the American people went to the polls where the president of the United States was being censored. And this affected millions and millions of votes.
Well, it was a stolen election. It was premeditated. It was stolen, and they were targeted steals. So it was not a question that there was no way that Joe Biden won this election. There is some statistics that went out. President Obama won in 2008, 69 million votes. 2008, 69 million votes. 2016, that was, around the same, a little bit less for, but this year, 2020, Donald Trump won 74 million votes, 2,497 counties that he won. Joe Biden somehow got 81 million votes, more than Obama. And out of 477 counties that he won. Now, President Obama won 873 counties, 69 million votes, but somehow 81 million votes in 477 counties, doing his little car shows and crop circles. Somehow we're supposed to believe that the highest number of any Republican president, 74 million votes, 2,497 counties won. Somehow, Sleepy Joe, Basement Biden won this election. And it's just a lie from the pit. And so we know that they had 4 years to work on this plot and plan. I believe they did a test run in Michigan in 2018. I believe that with all my heart. I don't have any evidence of that, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but there was no way that Dana, I don't have a penis, Nessel should have won, AG, and Jocelyn Benson and Whitmer should have won in Michigan. I believe that there was some things going on there, but the people who need to know, the people know that this was fraudulent. That the states, Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta, it was not a coincidence that these are urban areas where you can stuff things in. I've been called a racist since my 36 minutes in front of the Senate Oversight Committee, and I'll be called any name. But the truth of the matter is that these urban areas have been used by Democrats, prostituted by Democrats in order to hide and steal votes. That is the truth. That is the fact. 71% of the work done at the TCF Center could not be counted. And they threw out the people who were there to ensure election integrity. And, when I was sharing that it was a crime to intimidate and to throw out and to prohibit poll challengers from doing their duty, it is a crime to do that. It's $1,000 fine and up to 2 years in prison to do that. I mean, seriously, look it up. Michigan compiled law 168.744. 168.744. If you look it up, you will see it's the crime. And so people need to go to jail. And we don't have anyone that will put people in jail for what they did at the TCF Center. And we don't have people who will do that because the Secretary of State will not refer it to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General is acting like Helen Keller. So she is not able to do it. She's not prosecuting, and she's, blind, can't see nothing. I see nothing. And so I've been on a tangent lately of, and yes, that's the law. Prohibited actions violation as a misdemeanor. That's the law right there, 168.744. Those people who put up pizza boxes and signs, kick people out, we need to know who they are, and they need to be prosecuted like Sharika Hawkins.
Absolutely.
Sharika Hawkins, Black Southfield clerk, did fraudulent work in the 2018 election. She's been indicted for 6 felonies.
That's still in process.
She's been, look it up, Sharika Hawkins. And yet we see all the misdemeanors going on, and they don't want to prosecute. Every last one of them need to be prosecuted. And so I know that Mike Cox would have prosecuted. I know that Bill Schuette would have prosecuted. Yes.
That was her.
Yes. Would have been prosecuting all of these. We just do not have the leadership. But my tangent has been on malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. And that's what I believe our next steps are if our elected officials who are responsible for prosecuting this and referring these for prosecutions fail to do their jobs. It is at least nonfeasance.
What is the state of the, it seems like the Michigan House, the Michigan Legislature, House and Senate, they have responsibility for determining the electors and the Electoral College.
They, under the Constitution of the United States, the state legislatures, the state lawmakers have a responsibility to provide for a free and fair election. That is their role. They have laws there, and what I was sharing is that the laws are there. Here's the law. Here's the penalty if you violate the law. Here are the issues. We need enforcement of the law. They are not that. They have enforcement capabilities and different things, but there are the judicial branch with the lawsuit that I had filed with 500,000 votes that need to be removed from the Michigan vote totals. 500,000 that need to be removed. More than 300,000 people received their ballot without requesting it and without signing for it. And so they need to be removed. And so we don't have the executive leadership that will do that. We don't have a Secretary of State that will correct them. We know that dead people voted. Remove every single one of them. We know that people who don't live in Michigan or not U.S. citizens voted. This information from my lawsuit before the Supreme Court that was kicked by one vote, 500,000 provided by the Secretary of State. This data is provided by the Secretary of State. I'm not even making this up. The data is on the Secretary of State. She needs to remove 500,000 bad votes, illegal votes, fraudulent votes that were made. People we know did not live in Michigan, double voted. That is what's happening right now. That's not even at the TCF Center. And so we've asked the legislature to consider at least ordering the Secretary of State to remove those 500,000. That's a low-hanging fruit. So I've been trying to work with them, and there's a lot going on. But free and fair election is what they've provided. We need enforcement. If people go to jail, it will deter future individuals from breaking the law again.
I'm very concerned about the current election. Obviously, this is going to go to the Electoral College.
Mhm.
Obviously, the legislature has responsibility for determining what went on here. If enough agree, they can determine to set aside this election. If this looks egregious enough, they can direct the electors to say, okay, we're voting the Trump slate. The problem with the House and Senate leadership, Chatfield and Shirkey, they came back and said, we're going to follow the law. Well, if the law has been violated so much in this election, really it's a question of what are the constitutional principles that they're going to fight for. The law is
They've got to, and I don't cast any blame on our Republican leadership. They are on the front lines of all of this, but their role in the Constitution is to provide for a free and fair election, and they've done that. If there's any loopholes, they can close them, but we're not dealing with loopholes in the law. We're dealing with fraud and blatant fraud and illegal activity for which they need to force whatever subpoena powers. And I'm not an attorney. Whatever subpoena powers they have to bring in the Secretary of State. I know she said she's not coming in, but they need to force them to enforce the laws that they have made. Enforce the laws that we have made, because that is the job of the executive branch. We've got three branches of government. You have people who make the law, people who interpret the law, the judicial branch, and people who implement the law, which is the executive branch. And I've spent most of my time working in the executive branch of government. I've never worked for the judiciary or the legislative branch. What I do know, we implement. Executive branch implements the law. And you've got the Attorney General and the Secretary of State who refuses. And if this governor gave a rip about this election, she would ask her party to support at least the investigations and the removal. We're asking the legislature to do something that has not been done before, which is remove votes. And it's a tough decision. I just think that we need to look at malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance.
Well, we could go all day. Everybody, I'm sure, could go all day, but we're going to have a more long form portion
Thank you very much.
as we get further along. But we're going to need Mr. maybe Mark or Tom or anybody out here. You can cycle in while we transition. Thank you, Mr. Kokende. Yeah, great questions.
We have on Tuesdays. So.
We have a more important question than anything. They want to know about your hot dogs and how,
Oh, ClintonTarver.com.
Well, are they Hungarian? Are they Polish? Are they just good old-fashioned?
Well, they just good old-fashioned beef hot dogs.
And
I do sell Polish dogs, red hots. I even got a hot dog called Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
We got a Snoop Dogg.
Yes,
Oh, my gosh. All right.
You got to go to ClintonTarver.com. ClintonTarver.
It's a great business. A lot of people.
There we go.
When I first went into this business, a lot of people thought, hot dog. Nobody makes money on hot dogs. I think I proved them wrong.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah. So I've been doing it for about 23 years. And as my wife stated earlier, my first choice was hot dog, and my first hot dog cart, I planted it at a Builder Square.
Yes.
Wow.
Builder Square was there. They this guy came downtown. Give a little story about it. Guy came downtown when I was on the corner of Michigan, downtown Lansing. This guy, he came around. He just looked like a bum. He did. He really looked like. I thought he wanted.
He was homeless, right?
I thought he was homeless. So he came around and said, man. Chili dog. I say, oh man. So the girl I had working for me, I told him, make him a chili dog. Give him a chili dog. Yeah, chili dog. The guy was the manager of Builder Square. He said I had the best chili ever. He said, would you like to come out and set up at Builder Square? And that was my first kind of like break. From then on, I had a taco wagon, and GM called me and wanted me to bring my taco wagon inside there. So people said that you couldn't make money off hot dogs. I think I proved pretty wrong. And then I bought a restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, if Joe Biden ends up succeeding and the freedom of speech ends up, making it so we have to close the news hour here, I'm coming to work for you.
Come on, man.
Make hot dogs with you.
We got two carts now.
Yeah, the other one, huh? Well, anyway, we got Mark here. Mark's a part of the neighborhood,
Mark.
and I think he's got some strong opinions also for
I'm getting hungry looking at those hot dogs. Yesterday we had that video of TCF Center and that cop and all that. Put that up.
Showing that.
Mark's very upset with the way the police treated some people at the TCF
I'm just
Center.
wondering,
And
it's like you've got this, like, here's evidence of lawlessness, and I'm trying to put it as like, is it that corrupt that they can even force the police to break the law?
Yes.
That's kind of crazy.
Yes. They select cities that are complicit, and the leadership is complicit. They're clapping when people are put out. It is the police are taking people out. That is a misdemeanor to put them out, to intimidate them, and to not allow them to do their job. The Secretary of State lost in a lawsuit regarding COVID and the election. She wanted the poll challengers to have 6 feet away from the precinct workers, 6 feet away. And so in order for me to see the work, I need to be within the distance to be able to see it.
Right.
The law says I have a right to see what you're doing. I have a right to see the poll books. I can't touch them. I can't touch you, but I need to be close enough to see it. The Secretary of State said they should be 6 feet away because of COVID. And yet the people working are like 2 inches away. It was just ridiculous. But she lost in October. She signed a consent agreement. And yet in Detroit at the TCF Center, they were putting people 6 feet away who weren't able to do their jobs. And so that is another issue, that the people there were complicit in doing all of this. And they were complicit in breaking the law. The Secretary of State did not ensure that what she had lost at the Court of Claims, that was supposed to be done. And so there are other issues that we need to hold them accountable for. Malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance is what I've been using.
How about the breach of fiduciary responsibility?
Malfeasance, nonfeasance, and misfeasance. So that's where I'm at right now. I believe that, the recalls are not going to be quick enough and swift enough, but we have enough evidence of malfeasance or misfeasance or nonfeasance in office for our public officials who refuse to do their job. And, it is secondary to this election, but it definitely, looking at the pictures, putting these poll challengers out, they were supposed to hire 50-50 Democrats, Republicans, in order to cure a ballot, in order to change a ballot. Let's say instead of filling in the oval, you put an X. In order to change that for your intent, because you put an X instead of filling it in, it won't go through the tabulator. You have to have a Republican and a Democrat. They're watching the curing of the ballot. Well, show me the Republicans in there. I want a list of Republicans at the TCF Center who swears that they are Republican, because I want to check their Facebook page and social media page to make sure. I bet you we do not know them. So again, that they're supposed to have the curing of that. That was not done. There's so many violations of election law there. I don't have time to sit through and to explain it all from the beginning to the end. Even the counting boards, they had 134 counting boards for 503 precincts in an election year during a political partisan election, you need to have an equal number of counting boards as you do precincts. 503 precincts at the TCF Center should equal 503 counting boards. They had 134.
What about, I see like on news channels and stuff where they use this thing called the document cam, where they've got an overhead where they're able to look at this paper that's right down on the table. If they were going to have social distancing requirements, why didn't they have these document cameras where you could, be able to observe the ballot from the camera that's looking down on the table?
The lawmakers did not change the law for social distancing. The law, according to the courts, and she lost. Jocelyn Benson lost. She wanted 6 feet. She lost. She signed the consent agreement with the Court of Claims. She knew in October there's no 6 feet rule. They need to be able to see it in order to do their job. The poll challengers are part of what has been written by the lawmakers into the law to ensure election integrity. Our eyes, of the people's eyes, were there but not respected. We were put out of the TCF Center. And the election integrity that the lawmakers put in place was not honored there. And so people need to go to jail. We need to demand their names, and they need to go to jail, like Sharika Hawkins.
Well, Mark, I gotta get on camera. I'm told here as I transition. Any other questions, Mark, or any?
More like, how do we make sure this isn't going to be happen the next time? What can we do? As far as these polls, this vote process.
If people don't go to jail, there is no. I'm going to point you to New York. When you defund the police and you have no cash bonds, and you can slap, cut, and shoot a police officer and be out on the before the police is out of the hospital. When you have that liberalism, that is what's going to continue. This recklessness and liberal bastion of recklessness is going to continue until people go to jail. I mean, if people don't go to jail, you might as well forget.
Continue.
Yeah. If there's no consequences, my children are in their 30s. They needed some consequences, timeouts or spanking on the hand or something, but they needed consequences so they can discontinue. I have a pug. He needs to be told, this is no. But when it comes to criminal activity, there's no reason to have laws. Forget the lawmakers then. If we don't need a legislative branch, if the laws are going to be written by the Democrat Party and they're going to be cheated and not done, people need to go to jail this year.
We need to strengthen the Wayne County Republican Party.
There's nothing wrong with the Wayne County Republican Party. We need to enforce the laws.
Okay.
There are laws in place for election integrity, not just the poll challengers. But there are pieces throughout the system that I don't have time to go through today, and maybe that's another episode. From the beginning, when they're planning for an election, who they're recruiting for as election workers, how you're recruiting, when you're mailing out ballots. They used COVID-19, this Secretary of State and Attorney General and Governor used COVID-19 to break the law.
See, I was concerned because we were like Aaron called, that there were people that were down there and they seemed like the Republicans were like outnumbered by this vast amount, in this battle over these ballots being counted on that second day. That's where I was wondering, is that there just wasn't enough Republican reinforcement?
There were more than enough Republicans there. They were put out.
Okay.
I mean, they were put out and they were celebrated and clapped when they were put out. They put up pizza boxes to stop them from seeing what was going on. MCL 168.744. MCL 168.744. It is against the law to do that. And all of them need to go to jail. You can't pass any more laws if you don't enforce the ones you have. I mean, seriously, why? You don't need any more laws. You need to enforce and put people in jail. And yes, they might be nice people who were suckered into cheating for the Democrat Party, but it will deter anyone and everyone in the future from coming out and stealing an election.
Well, I thank you for everything that you've done. And
thank you.
It's like it opened my eyes up too. even like what the law is. And I was like, after hearing the things that were going on at TCF, I thought it was kind of hopeless. And when you came on, I was like, wow,
We're gonna
We're gonna
scoot over
scoot,
this
all
one.
right.
Yes, we're scooting.
Well, Mark, thank you.
Mark, thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, I'm getting yelled at. I got to get on camera if the
Yes.
audience is going to hear my voice. The audience doesn't like
We
hearing
just don't want
voices
to-
on
yes,
camera.
there you go.
We want to help you in the transitions.
Yeah, thank you.
So while we bring our next member of the neighborhood
Right here.
in, are we doing good? You feeling good?
Yeah.
Got some coffee there?
Yes, I'm all good.
We've got some questions about a clerk.
I don't vote on Tuesdays.
Yeah, come on in, Tim. Tim, you're next up. Yep, Mr.
You get
Schumacher.
Yes.
A clerk in Livonia. Have you heard about this? A Miss Nash?
Yes.
Do you have any background on that story? Anything?
don't have
No.
background
Okay,
on
maybe
that, yeah.
people in our live chat could help us out.
Yes.
Something's going on in Livonia, Michigan. Sounds like maybe a clerk was thrown under the bus, or whatever you want to call it, I guess. But yeah, Tim, welcome. Dr. Tarver, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Pleased
Yeah,
to meet
it's-
both of you.
it's a pleasure.
Much of an honor. It really
Thank
is.
you.
Well, of course, I'm a 72-year-old veteran,
All right now.
Sir,
That's all right.
68 to 70. But what really concerns me, and it goes a little deeper than the elections, of the corruption and some of the devious things that I've seen and heard over the many decades that I've been out of the service, and I've talked to fellow veterans as well.
Mhm.
But okay, I went in 68 to 70, but after getting out and in the mid 90s, I received some information that really was troubling, to the fact that, okay, President Trump took us out of the United Nations.
Mhm.
The Democrats want us put us back into the United Nations.
mhm.
Now, this information pertains to what the United Nations has, and this has been ongoing since the mid 90s,
Mhm.
when our government handed out questionnaires to our recruits
Mhm.
about, you belong to the United Nations. The commander in chief, the president, is no longer in control of the military. The United Nations is. And there was a whole bunch of other questions, and we got down to about 9 and 10. And would you report your parents having weapons? Would you turn your parents in for having weapons? I talked to 4 recruits that served. Well, they were veterans, but they served in that time, went in the mid 90s, and they had to answer those questions. Now,
Mhm.
those were 2. There was a third question that I heard that might have been taken off prior to that. And the question was, would you kill your parents in order to take their guns away from them?
Oh.
That's troubling. Now, that's part, if the Democrats get control and put us back into the United Nations, and the United Nations is in control of our military, and the president isn't anymore, then what do we have to look forward to?
Well, I can tell you right now that I know Donald Trump won by a landslide.
Yes, he did.
It's no question. Joe Biden did not get more votes than Barack Obama in 2008. That we know.
Mhm.
We know that it was stolen in certain cities, urban cities. Those were in swing states. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that the Democrats will stack the Supreme Court, or they've indicated they will stack the Supreme Court. They will sign us back into the Paris Accord. They will do away with our energy independence. There is a plethora of things that we can look forward to in our Second Amendment. More people are buying guns now
Yes.
than ever before in the history of our country, which, I am not surprised. One of the things that I read was the Declaration of Independence.
Yes.
And it is a simple solution. Should it not turn in our favor, which I believe that it will. I have not given up on our president, and I've not given up on the Lord and what he's doing. But the simple part of our Declaration of Independence, which I really want you to hear, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. When I
Um,
was drafted, I had no choice.
well, I know, but thank you for your service anyway. Right. I'm glad the Lord brought you through.
Well,
No
I have a
choice.
twin brother, and he went over to Vietnam for 6 months. and
Wow.
We belonged to this 1,200 twins that served during that Vietnam era,
Wow.
and we belonged to the study. And I got a
Oh,
pin to that
really?
up here. Yeah, and it's by the government, basically, to take,
Twins.
yeah, okay, and to make a comparison or what combat did to one and how, how it affects twins at a certain age
Wow.
during wartime.
A lot of stories in
That's a good
the
story.
neighborhood here.
I
I'll tell you, a
know
lot of
it.
good
That's
people to meet.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, my son served in Iraq just last year, 2018, sorry, for a year there, and he got back. And our commander in chief, I will tell you, Iran was going to kill soldiers, American soldiers in Baghdad. My baby was there. And I will tell you that this president was very strong in making it plain that any activity from Iran to the soldiers over there, I was ready for them. And our president held strong, and my child came home. And I know that Donald Trump will do everything. He'll do the Moab, mother of all bombs. Iran will be a blip on the planet, the place that used to be Iran. There were some people who of the liberal tilt that indicated that they, we are going to go to war. This president wants to go to war. I said, my baby's in Iraq. I will push the button for him. Okay. So we have a great commander in chief. But I wanted to share this with you. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As Republicans, I stand strong with our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our life for the unborn, we have a right to life. We have a right to life, according to our Declaration of Independence. Liberty, our freedoms should not be taken away because of COVID-19. And the pursuit of happiness, we need to be able to run our businesses, especially our restaurants. And whether we succeed or fail will be based on us, but certainly not shut down at the whim of a dictator. But I'm going to keep going. So to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And I'm just going to leave it like that. To secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their powers, their just powers, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. It needs my consent. It needs your consent. This government is not based on their consent. And too often we think that we are beholden to them. They get their powers from us. And when we get tired, let me go back to here so you'll know what's going to happen. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, and laying its foundation on such principles and organizing such powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to the effect of their safety and happiness. And so if we have destructive liberal governments, we do not have to tolerate that. That's true. And as a people, I know people are rising up, and I'm not talking about a war or civil war. I'm talking about removing government that is destructive legally and according to our Constitution, removing them from office, malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance, doing and making sure we are electing people. But if our elections are not fair, we need to start prosecuting people. And so that's the goal here, is that we need to go back to our founding documents. We will be better when we say they report to us. Right. We give them their powers, not the other way around. Yes. And so if we don't want to go back to $4 a gallon of gas because we have windmills and, and different things that we're supposed to have electric, whatevers, I'm sorry. It's a sad state of affairs, but God is we still have a God on the throne. I just want to say that out loud. We still have a God on the throne. I'm trusting him. We need to pray, and we need to make sure that we are crying out. So I'm a Sunday school teacher. So I'm going to just tell you, when the Lord met with Moses on the side of the mountain, he did not say, Moses, I think you're just a great guy. I like you. He didn't even go there. He said, I heard the cries of my people who were in bondage, and I want you to deliver them.
Oh, just to interject something about electric cars that
Mhm.
Biden wants to convert over.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
we live in a winter area, okay?
Mm.
This is, okay, anybody that knows anything about electric, anything, okay,
Joe hasn't
you
driven
can,
in years.
if you can go 200 miles on an electric car and you subject it to 10, 15 degree weather.
Oh, you mean
You're
polar
on like a-
vortex, like in Michigan, polar vortex?
No,
Yeah.
just being able to drive. Okay, the cold weather zaps
Yes,
the energy.
I
Instead
know.
of driving 200 miles, you can only drive 120.
Oh, at
So it
50,
zaps-
50.
Okay, well, but okay, that's what it
I
does
might
to
have not
cars
made
in
it
the
here.
cold
I
weather.
might not have made it here.
Well, I'll tell you, I
From
mean,
Lansing.
we're
It
gonna
would've
have to
been tough.
we're gonna have to have you here once a week because people just want to talk your ear off. But
Really get educated.
Tim, I think we've got another
I'm gonna
special
go.
guest, sir. Are
Thank you very much
you
for
sure?
having
Can
me.
we
Thank you.
can we
You
bring
too.
you into the
I
hot
like it.
seat?
I love
Yes.
your gals.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
still doing good. I'm gonna
I'm
get you a
doing
little
good.
coffee.
Oh, I'm good. No, this is good.
Mr. Tarver, you
I think the
having a
big guy's
Coke there? Is
good.
that Coke?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Thank
get you a
you.
Coke. Yeah, and then welcome, sir. For those of you who
Senator.
may not be aware, this is our state senator Dale Zorn here
Yes.
locally. Another member of the neighborhood, a very appreciated member of the neighborhood, and yeah, certainly. Thanks for being here, Dr. Tarver. I think you guys already know each other.
Thank
So,
you. Oh yeah, this is my brother.
well, does he
Okay.
need a signed picture? Or
It
he-
is.
I'm just
This
gonna-
is my brother.
That's his brother. Yes.
Well, I'm gonna get your brother and sister a coffee and a Coke while you guys talk a little bit.
Now,
Oh, you want a picture of you guys?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
here.
over here.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna first thing I'm gonna tell you about the hot dogs
Oh, yeah.
because I get the hot dogs.
Yes.
Not only do I, but I have him come over and
And cater.
cater for us.
Yeah.
And,
I guess you guys in Lansing,
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
probably see him regularly.
So if you ever get to Lansing, and if we ever get our restaurants open back up,
Yes.
always go down to let's see, it's Michigan and
And
Capital.
Capitol.
Right across.
Yes.
Yeah, right across from the Capitol, right there on the corners where
Yes,
Clint's at, and you're going to get the greatest hot dogs in the world.
yeah.
Not to mention the chili, but
Just a
it's all good. That's for sure.
That's good. Thank you.
I certainly appreciate you, man. You know, I appreciate.
Well, I remember the day that we was there during the
Right to work.
right to work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and your cart was demolished.
Yeah,
What was
Under
the
the-
catering equipment? Catering
Yeah.
equipment. Yeah.
it was just people just went crazy that day for some reason. Can't forget it.
That's for sure. And
Yeah.
and we
It
all
was the liberal left again.
Yeah, they
It was
came in on buses.
The liberal left
Yeah.
tearing down and there were women
Yeah, under the tent.
and men and others underneath that tent, but they were
Yeah,
Senator Zorn and all of them were doing their business, ensuring that people have a right to work and that they do not have to be forced to join a union if they do not want to. So you've been doing some good work
that was an interesting time. That's for sure.
and getting threatened to do it. I know.
That goes
Being a
along with-
lawmaker is a threatening, it's a hazard pay.
That kind of goes with the job.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you want to introduce Senator Zorn?
Yeah, well, read the bio there.
Yeah.
Well, Andy's gonna get us back to that screen and we can read the bio. But man, you guys have been busy, and she sure lit the room on fire there with your colleagues.
Absolutely.
You guys didn't know that was going to come in on hour number 4 or 5 there.
I had heard about it after it happened, and I thought, well, that was great getting the good doctor in there because such a different perspective on the whole situation, and there is lots of different perspectives.
Certainly.
It's a very intense position that we're in right now, and there's lots of different rumors and lots of different ideas that's going on and what needs to happen. But this is the first time this has ever happened to us here, especially me.
Sure.
It's the first time I've ever been involved with something like this. So we're learning as we go, and we're finding that, as Linda said, that those that has committed a
a crime needs to be prosecuted, and I'm not sure where it's all going to go for this election, but certainly the next election, we want to make sure
Definitely.
that the integrity is there and people will trust the election.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what we need to focus on is not only what happened today and correct what happened today, but our future elections depend on what we do with this.
Enforcement.
Absolutely.
It's enforcement. You can make all the laws. You've got good laws.
We probably have enough laws.
You have enough laws. That's why I was sharing. It's not like you need to pass 15 more laws. You just need to enforce them. But if you don't prosecute, I mean, I go back to New York. New York has defunded police. They have decided that criminals can get out, who assault a police officer, will get out of jail quicker with zero bond. I mean, just no bond. Will get out of jail before the police officer gets out of the hospital. And there's no repercussions. And this is the same political party that will want you to do catch and release. This is the same party that will allow open borders and people, these poor children, they just need to come in and we just need to absorb them without even knowing that these people are the parents. We're finding tons of these alleged parents, what we call human traffickers, are bringing in. This is the same party that believes in abortion, killing babies in the womb. The abortion clinics were open all year with COVID. You could not get a colonoscopy, pap smear, mammogram, a pacemaker tweak, no new cancer treatments, no kidney dialysis, no nothing during COVID, thanks to the governor closing down elective surgeries. But you could have an abortion all year. All year you could have an abortion. We know where the priorities are. 2 of our friends passed because of cancer, aggressive cancers. They couldn't get treated.
Wow.
And so it's just ridiculous. March 9th, Gretchen Whitmer was in Detroit at a high school with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Corey Spartacus Booker. And they were there on March 9th. March 10th, she issued an executive order to cancel elective surgeries. Did you not think COVID was there on the 9th? I mean, you knew it was there. You wrote the executive order on the 9th. You went and partied on the 9th. You just have to look it up. March 9th of this year. And then March 10th, she wrote the executive order to stop all elective surgeries. People couldn't get cataracts removed. They couldn't get any type of dental thing. This is what was going on in our state. It's egregious. And to me, she's out of order. And this is the type of leadership that we need to address and get rid of. It doesn't make sense. I believe that those things are not legislative. We just need to make sure that we do something, malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. We just need to get rid of people who are not going to do their job.
I do want to ask, well, certainly we have you guys here regarding the election and something that went on in the Senate recently. You had John Paulus, or Paulus, yeah. Paulus of Dominion there, and it left a lot to be desired. As I watched that, in the sense of and on our end, certainly as independent journalists, we're receiving threats, for even talking about and thinking about and looking into Dominion. It's like to even say the names, we're getting threats. And I think a lot of us are really suspicious of this company and these machines at this point. You mentioned machines that were connected to the internet that should not have been connected to the internet. One thing that hasn't come up in our interviews, and Senator Zorn, I don't know, we know you guys are busy and there's so much information out here, but a lot of, the media, right and left, has not uncovered or highlighted that the Dominion company's programmers are based in Belgrade, Serbia. I don't know how many people know that the actual programmers for Dominion are not in Denver. They're not in Toronto. This goes on in Belgrade, Serbia, and when we look at this thing, we look at NATO and, our president, when he first came in, NATO, right? So they're not necessarily best friends. And we know what NATO did in the Balkans in 1999 And now we've got the programmers from Dominion are in Belgrade, and we got these machines that have got quite a few suspicious problems. So I just, maybe a word on Dominion. I don't want to disparage any company. I don't want to make them lose business. I just want to be sure, I voted in a Dominion machine, Senator Zorn, right down the road. I went to the church right down the road, and I put my machine into a Dominion machine. And if I'm going to live in this township, I want to feel like the machine I put my ballot into is a machine that I can rely upon. Otherwise, I'll just fill it out and dip my finger in purple ink and and we can go old school. I think if we would have just done paper, we would have saved a lot of time at this point.
It comes back to the integrity of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're talking about there, is that we have to make sure that our voting system is an American system, and it stays here in America.
That would feel better.
Just clap on that. That is obvious and still profound at the same time.
This is nothing against the Serbian people. The Serbian people are wonderful people.
Buy
but
America,
to
made
have
in
their
America for
programmers
Americans.
over there
Right.
for our election, it's a little weird.
I think what I heard from Dominion that day is I think they have a lot of information that we need to get.
Yes.
And just one day is not going to do that. And we have to continue with that. And that's one of the problems that we're having, is that people want us to do something about this right now.
Yeah.
And just like any other crime, you have to work up a case. You have to get evidence, and you have to get the right evidence so that you can prosecute that evidence.
Okay.
And I believe that's what we're doing now. How long that's going to take, I don't know. But I think we're just scratching at the very bottom of the barrel right now. And that's something that Linda has said earlier, that you felt that back in 2018 was a dry run for this. I believe you're absolutely right. And I think this year it wasn't just another dry run. It was actually seeing how far this society could be changed, and how quickly it can be changed. And what I mean by that is that, my parents always told me that back then it was the communists would take over without ever firing a shot. And, I look back at what happened back in March and April and June leading into the COVID, and how many of our freedoms was taken away by one person. What's that telling me? I think we have a very serious problem here. I think there's people that want to change this nation. And the concern is what are we going to do about that? I think Linda was absolutely right when she said that we need to look at other things other than civil war, revolution. But, typically what happens when you have a constitutional crisis, and I believe we're in a constitutional crisis. But what do you have in a constitutional crisis? It's civil war or revolution. And I have to ask myself, has that already begun in America? When you stop and look at the cities that has the violence, across America, and you look at the sales of guns and ammo that's just shooting through the roof. What is really going on in this country? And we have some very, very, very real questions we have to ask ourselves on where we want this country to go. And to me, I want this country to be the country that I grew up in, and for my grandchildren to grow up in that same country that we're free and we can go here and go there. We don't have to wait for someone to tell us we can't go there. You're talking about electric vehicles. That's the greatest way to keep you home.
Right. and people in Detroit can't pay their electric bills right now. I mean, we've got utility issues with this governor. There was supposed to be a moratorium during COVID to ensure that there were no evictions and no foreclosures during the time that people were to shelter in place. And there was no utility cutoffs. And I'm joking about that, but there were no utility cutoffs supposed to be. And yet they were shutting off these people who were struggling in Detroit. They were shutting off the utilities. They were foreclosing on their homes. They were doing evictions. They were supposed to have a moratorium on there when they were supposed to be sheltered in place. And this governor was slow or late or incompatible with that. And I will tell you, I am not willing to give up our freedoms. We had radical Republicans who were lynched. If you look up radical Republicans in the Library of Congress, lynched because they wanted Black folks to learn how to read and to vote. And they were, yes, those are radical Republicans. And in Michigan, more white radical Republicans were lynched than Black men because of their views and stance for those who were less of a, they were slaves or they were marginalized people. But the Republican Party was very much on the side of freedom and progress, which is why Dyed in the Wool is named after. It's a quote from Frederick Douglass. He said, "I'm a Republican, a dyed in the wool Republican, and I won't belong to any other party but the party of freedom and progress. I am not giving up on my party, even though some in our party may not stand with us right now. They will stand. We are getting more people in who love freedom. And, people have been fighting against tyranny of this governor and of the liberal left for the longest. And I am delighted to be a part of that. I'm a Republican, a Black, dyed in the wool Republican, and I won't belong to any other party but the party of freedom and progress."
I'm gonna steal your thunder while I got my senator here. And sir, honestly, thank you for being here so much. And we're live, and I'm sure there are many of your colleagues that would not be to come sit live on camera like this. Thank you so much. You really do inspire me that you're going to help. It's a tough job. I can't imagine what calls you must be getting every day and what it must be like right now. And so just thank you for being here. It really is important. And to the people in our live chat, I can see that they really appreciate you being here. And just one, question, for you, to us, and those, we got people in the live chat that are from all over the world in different countries and different states, but I hope they can, take this answer, to their community. What can we do to help you? What is something, and I know, we could start a podcast and we could invite you to podcasts and things like that, and maybe editorials to newspapers, but what can regular folks like us do to make your job easier? And, so that you're not, running in there all by yourself and, running out for a hot dog in the middle of getting down all day long.
Go get the hot dog.
He's got free hot dogs.
Can we buy in your hot dogs? Everybody sponsor the man's
we got his hot dogs covered, okay?
If it's between a hot dog and work.
But how, as a constituent of yours, I'm happy you're fighting the good fight. How can I help other constituents? Maybe you can take this answer. How you can help your state senator to do this, and to what can we do to help? That's
really the best thing for you to do is to elect individuals that believe in America.
Amen.
That's number one. If we just look at an individual because they're a great person, and we don't look at what their philosophy is in life, we can elect the wrong people to run this country. How many times has somebody talked a good talk and then was elected, and then all at once you find out that perhaps they're not as good for America as you thought they would be. And once they're there, it's very difficult to remove them. So I say, number one, when you go to the polls, make sure you elect somebody who believes in America. that's willing to fight for America, willing to fight for our kids and our freedoms. It's just, I think that's the number one thing. Number two, obviously, be in contact with your representative. You'd be surprised how many of us really do take phone calls and call people back. I take a lot of pride in that within my office, and we listen to everyone. We read every email that comes in.
You prefer calls or emails? You seem like you're more of a call guy.
I like to talk to people.
Yeah.
No, I do. I would rather talk to people because when you talk to someone, you create a conversation, and you can get more. You can talk about more through a real conversation than you can through writing. So I personally would love to talk to you, and all I have to do is call the office to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I called. Don't worry. But to others who maybe have never called their senator, or maybe they've never called their congressperson, now's the time.
Well,
Stop waiting.
Now is so important because I can't reiterate enough that America is hurting, and our freedoms are hurting.
Yes.
We talked about the cars and electric cars. When I was talking about that, what I wanted to say is that we have a governor that's telling us where we can go, when we can go, what we can do. We can't go to church, but yet we can go have an
Strip
abortion.
club and have an abortion. Weed factory and casinos. Yeah.
If you get a car that can only go 120 miles for a couple of days, that's not the freedom that we
That's a good point.
have in this country.
No.
And I'm very adamant when I say that I would do everything in my power and control and authority to make sure that you have the freedoms that our forefathers envisioned.
Amen.
All of us.
Amen.
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 Well, it's going to be tough for we're going to have to get. I was seeing if your wife maybe wanted to follow. Who's going to want to follow in your seat? It's tough to follow.
I don't know.
It's tough to follow the senator. But,
you can at least come to get introduced.
yeah, we can say we'll introduce
She
her
is
for sure.
part of the Republican Women's Federation of Michigan.
Absolutely.
So.
But yeah, Dr. Tarver, so you guys are old friends, and Senator, thanks for being here.
Yes.
I'm sure maybe we could do another interview. A more in-depth thing later on, this was more of a variety. Oh, we're all scooting, huh?
Yeah, she'll get in right here. Yeah.
They're always pushing us guys out.
Yeah, man.
Well, geez, I'm on like a double date.
Yeah,
I'm on a double date without my.
I feel bad I wasn't a gentleman.
Oh boy, sorry. Yep.
That's all right. Dear.
Well, what do you think about everything that's going on? You're here in the middle now. What America circa 2020? Yeah.
I think that we need to be very concerned about the future, like we've talked about. We've got 11 grandkids, and I'm very concerned what their life is going to be like by the time they get to be adults. I mean, the oldest one is 15, so there's a little time here, but we need to take care of them, and we need to watch out for them.
Amen.
They're our responsibility.
You know what I think? I think need to break that cycle of the Democrats.
Yeah.
Now, my parents were Democrats. I asked a Democrat a few years ago, why are you a Democrat? My mother was, my dad was. So I think that's a trend that's going down with the Democrats. I mean, we need to break that cycle. They need to break that cycle because they're going to still elect the same people over and over again. Matter of fact, that my mother was a Democrat, my father, my grandmother, we all were Democrat. Why? There's no reason. Nobody gave me a reason yet that I've asked that question. Why they are a Democrat? The only thing they come up with is that. So I think it's just a cycle. They keep voting on the same people. Last 40 years or more,
who work against their own initiatives.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that we get so used to being kind of like middle of the road.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any waves. I don't want to. I don't want to do anything.
Right.
And so we ride the fence. And when I hear people say that, two things come to mind. Neither be hot nor
Cold,
warm.
yes, because you'll be spit out.
That you'll be spit
Revelation,
out.
yes.
And the other thing is, I think about my grandfather who used to have, my grandparents had a huge yard, and he built a picket fence all around it. And of course, you could walk the fence.
Right.
And if you walked the fence, you either went in a circle all the way or square all the way around the yard, and you got no place. Or you fell off and you got hurt.
Yes.
Or you decided which side of the fence you were going to jump off of.
Yes.
If you jumped off on the inside, you were safe. If you jumped up on the outside, you might get someplace. So,
Well, I feel blessed that God has introduced me to a woman who is not on the fence.
No.
And if you're on the fence, she's gonna let you hear about it. And I'm with you, sister. It's like I'm learning. Yeah.
One of the things I think that the Lord, I was wondering why I was drawn to children and to teaching Sunday school and biblical truths. And one of the things that I was invited to do, I was a cheerleader at school, but then I was on the debate team. Can you imagine?
No.
So I know. Just a shocker there. So, but yeah, I was on the debate team, and I did not know why the Lord gave me certain desires to take things and break them down, even with the stories that are in the 2 books that I wrote. Just some insights, and to be able to explain simplistically what our society is looking like today, and maybe give people something to think about. And for example, with the school system, my daughter works for CPS in Texas, and she informed me that in Texas, and it's not uncommon for any other state or cities, 80% of the abuse and neglect referrals come from teachers. And these babies are not in school. And, and I'm trying to scream at to the lawmakers and folks, the babies who are abused and neglected are not in school. The people who are mandatory reporters cannot see the abuse and neglect over a laptop. They need to be in school. And there are food deserts in urban areas where the kids can only eat, their biggest meals come from school, breakfast and lunch. And yet they're not in school. At some point, you've got 11 grandkids. I have my first one. He's 10 months.
Wow.
He's perfect in all his ways. Blessed and highly favored amongst babies. So, but if he was school age, he needs to be in school. He needs to be able to, for those kids on IEPs who need special assistance at home or in school, whose parents cannot, maybe graduated or didn't graduate from school, who are not able to educate them, they need to be in school. COVID has been used to tear down our society and force us into a compliance of fear, and people who don't want to wear masks, and people who don't want to go in hiding and social distancing and separation to comply with this. And I believe that it's a level of wickedness that we have not seen before, but we can fight it because the Lord is on our side. And we live still in a free nation, and only because we are free in our hearts and minds, and we've got our founding documents that we've got to fight with. I am willing to go to jail. I'm willing to go to the ints. I'm willing to be doxxed. I'm willing to be called any kind of name for our freedoms. But I am not going to break the law. I'm not going to fight with physical tools. I'm fighting in prayer. And I'm asking the Lord to, who is still on the throne, to assist us in fighting this battle for us. Because this is a level of wickedness that we have not seen before. But the decision makers are putting our children at risk. Amen. They've allowed every sinful thing to occur, to continue to be opened, and closing churches is an assault against the church. It's assault against Christ. They want to take out Christ out of Christmas. They want to take out all of the things that we hold dear And they want to fundamentally change our lives, but we have to stand firm and stand together. If the Tower of Babel was being built by people who were united, and the Lord came down and said, because they have one mind and one voice, there's nothing that can stop them. That is why he confounded their language. But if we come together for a righteous cause, for the right reasons, being radical Republicans again, and being patriots again, our founding documents establish this republic. If we do that together, nothing can stop us with the Lord's help. And we're on his side. We're not destructing. This is a gift. This country is a gift to us. It's a gift to us. It is a land of milk and honey. It is the land that we have to have, that he was given to us. But we cannot be like the 10 people who said that there are just too many giants in the land. There's just too much this, and we cannot take our country back. I'm going to be Caleb and Joshua, and you need to be Caleb and Joshua. The Lord is on our side, and not be the 10 who stand back because you've got the big news and you've got the fake news and you've got the Democrat Party, you've got this. The Lord is on our side. And so we need to say we can do this and take this. And the Lord did not tell them to go and I will give you this land. He wanted us to go and fight for what was promised to us. And so we may have to fight again, not in the bloodshed, but definitely in our petitions, in our political stances, in our court systems, and in volumes together, million marches until we get what we need from our countrymen.
Amen.
I want to show you, I know my stuff.
Good.
Okay.
The people of Israel, they were supposed to go right into the desert.
Right.
And they were afraid of the giants.
Right.
And God was mad. And he said, all right, you guys are going to wander around the desert for 40 years until you're all gone. And it was Caleb and Joshua. That's what she means when she says Caleb and Joshua.
Need to be Caleb and
Joshua are the only ones who got to go in the land, right?
That's right.
Did I pass Sunday school today?
You did. I feel so proud now. Yes.
I was thinking of Deborah. You remind me of.
Oh, yes. She was wonderful.
Well, I'll say.
And she's in my book, Died in the Wool. Available on Amazon. Yeah.
Having you here is so great. I think you've been sitting for an hour and a half, and I think we're going to close this portion now. I think we'll do another panel on another day. It's already almost 8:00. These have been great interviews.
Thank you.
I think all of you there in the live chat, we appreciate you being there. Stay tuned. There may be a couple splinter interviews that occur here in the next 20 to 30 minutes as we close this program. You might see another quickie with any of the other members here if they want to stick around.
Still here?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going
to read the book.
We're going to read the book. We'll close this and we'll open it up again. I'll get the kids on the couch and we'll do that too before you leave. But thank you, Senator, Mrs. Zorn. Thank you so much for being here. Really, the fact that you're willing to come is really appreciated.
Yes.
And everybody else here, if you didn't get your questions in, I'm sorry. I think Dr. Linda,
some of these.
And thank you so much, Andy. I think thanks for being Mr. Producer.
Thank
you can hit that red button, and we will
Bye.
see you all there.
Wave.
Yep.